It's time for your Low Country Real Estate Market Update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-400-8009. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston, and welcome to another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. Almost a decade I've been on this program, providing you with my opinion of the real estate market as somebody that has been selling real estate for 16 years, over 1,000 transactions, about $1 billion worth of real estate volume here locally. So I help prepare you for the road ahead. If you're thinking of buying, selling, investing in real estate, maybe getting into real estate as a career, then this is the show for you. I help you better understand what's happening within the market, the trends within it, how that applies to you, whether you're buying, selling, or investing. I also peel back the curtain on this industry. This is the only show I know of that does this, where we help you understand how real estate agents operate. And we do that for your benefit as a listener, so you understand, given different dynamics in the market, how things change and how you need to prepare, how you need to interview agents, what you should be looking for. Now, of course, every person has a different goal in mind. Some people want to sell immediately. Some people don't care how long it takes to sell, so long as they get the right price. But if you're interested in developing a strategy for buying, selling, or investing in real estate in this market, then my number, 843-400-8009, is the number to call, 843-400-8009. Or you can go to our website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. More information on myself, my team, who we are, what we do, what we've sold, how we sell things. You can find out how many buyers there are for your home right now if you're considering selling, which we're going to talk about later. There's a huge plethora of buyers that are just waiting for inventory to hit the market. We're at the lowest point we've ever been, or at least since the MLS has been tracking data with regard to inventory. So we're going to talk more about that. But if you're interested in selling your home, you'd like to kind of just skip to the front of the line and see if we have a cash buyer for your property, then again, give me a call. Text me 843-400-8009, 400-8009, or go to listingsincharleston.com. So let me tell you what I want to cover here over the next hour. I really want to dive kind of deep into what's happening in the market. We're in a very interesting position right now, not just locally, but as a national real estate market. There are some things that are taking shape, and I want you to be aware of that. A little bit later on in the program, I want to talk about what some of these agents are doing and what they're saying, and essentially what they are getting you to agree to, or I guess what they themselves are agreeing to, at least initially, in order to get you to hire them. There's some games that agents play depending upon what type of market we're in. And I want to help you better understand what that looks like. You know, there are a lot of kind of shady tactics going on in real estate right now. There's a lot of desperation in our market among real estate agents. I mean, there's basically 7 agents for every 1 property available for sale right now. So I want to help you better understand what some of these games are that people play, and just how you can be aware of that, how you can use that information to your advantage, so that when you go and buy something or sell something or invest in something, you understand how the process works, not just from a market perspective, but from kind of a logistical perspective in working with that agent. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you interview an agent in this kind of market. What should you be looking for? What really separates one agent from another in a market like this? And, you know, if you're a seller, you would seem to think that, hey, what's the difference, right? All I do is put the property in the market and it gets swarmed by buyers. Well, that's not always the case. It's happening more and more, of course. But I want to help you understand what you should be looking for from my perspective. Or in other words, if I were somebody selling my home, what would I look for in an agent? And then, sorry about that. And then lastly, I want to talk about some creative solutions in this market. I think that's a really important part of working with a real estate agent, because we need it. We need those creative solutions for buyers and sellers. We need outside of the box thinking. And that comes with experience. Some of the things that I'm going to suggest aren't, frankly, all that tricky, but they do have to be pulled off correctly. So that's the plan over the course of the next hour. So let's kind of jump right into the market right now. What's happening? The National Association of Realtors reported last month that we had the lowest inventory number of homes for sale since 1999. We're also at a point right now where it's really the lowest we've seen it in Charleston, especially if you account for the massive population growth we've seen in comparison to how many homes there are for sale. We also have things like interest rates jumping up. Now they're above 3.5%. I mean, it's pretty significant from this time last year. In fact, let me just kind of stay there for a quick second. Think about this. Last year in January, in the Charleston market, the median sales price was $315,000. In January last month, it was $360,000. But back in January, a year ago, interest rates were at 2 3/4, 2.75. Now we're at 3.55. So I want you to understand the impact on the payment here. So if you were to buy a home a year ago at the median sales price, $315,000, with the average interest rate of 2.75%, that's a monthly payment of $1,284 a month. Well, now, given appreciation and the increase in interest rates, you're looking at $1,627 a month. That's a 27% increase in the overall payment. So yeah, we look at appreciation, of course, but then we look at the interest rate, the impact on affordability. Or another way of putting it, instead of buying a house last year for $315,000, with that same payment today, you could have bought a $400,000 house. That's the true impact on purchase power and the impact on affordability in our market. And it's getting worse. In fact, there was a study that was done by the National Association of Realtors where they looked at a bunch of larger metro areas across the country. And ironically, Charleston was on there. We're kind of starting to get on these lists of bigger metro markets. And what it did is it broke down the income level, less than 15,000, 15 to 25, 25 to 35, so on and so forth, $100,000 to $125,000 a year in household income. And what it looked at is essentially how affordable are the homes in that price range. So if you look at the income level, let's just use, let's look at let's look at up to $100,000, $75,000 to $100,000. Here's a bracket. They're saying that in that bracket, only 36% of households would be able to afford those properties of everything that's available using median sales prices. That's a pretty decent household income. If you jump up to, of course, the folks that are making, $500,000 and above, then the statistic becomes irrelevant. But if you take the, let's say $100,000 to $125,000 price range, that means that only half of what's on the market are something that they could afford. We've seen prices go up and up and up, and we've seen that luxury market really take off. You think about some of the different ways that people want to diversify their investments. One of the great ways of doing that, of course, is real estate. I mean, tried and true, it is a fantastic investment vehicle long term. But now we have the ability to invest in things like short-term rentals. Now, Charleston County's cracked down on that. There are only a few locations, frankly, that those types of properties work within. Then we can, of course, look at Berkeley and Dorchester County, but we have to take into consideration what the demand might be for like an Airbnb in some of those locations. But everybody wants to be an investor right now. Everybody wants to get into the real estate game. And the challenge is, it's just like anything else. There are a ton of investors out there, or people that would like to be investors. When I'm talking with my team and when we're talking with investors, we really have to separate the serious from the curious. There are a lot of people that say, yeah, I'd like to invest in real estate. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're looking for. They don't know how to analyze and interpret property. And that's fine. We'll teach them. I mean, I've done, well over $100 million worth of investment real estate deals. So I can walk them through that process. But what I find is that for the folks that really are not serious investors, people that will actually purchase property, then They're going to look at the property. We're going to provide it to them in the form of an analysis saying, hey, here was your required rate of return. Here's how much it rents for. Here's your cash on cash return. Here's your cap rate. Here's your after tax return after depreciation and equity gains and so on and so forth. And then they'll sit on it for a few days. Well, then by then, of course, the investment opportunity is gone. So if you are interested in investment properties, we also now offer property management. It's a property management company built by investors like me for investors like me. It's a very unique model that is designed to maximize your cash flow as the investor. Property management companies are notorious for nickel and diming people. That's really how they make their money. We don't do any of that. Yet the model still works because if we're interested in promoting the cash flow for that particular investor, and we do that by running a really solid property management company that retains those tenants and reduces your vacancy loss, and we've got great vendors that we're not going to upcharge you on when we have to send somebody out for a maintenance-related issue. All these things just result in a higher return on investment for you, the investor. So if that's something you're interested in, then give me a call, 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009, or you can always go to listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. That's our main real estate company's website. If you'd like to learn more about our property management website or company, then that's BeattyMGMT.com. So Beatty, B-E-A-T-T-Y, MGMT.com for management. So I tell you what, stick around because I've got a lot more to talk about with regard to this market and then kind of how the agents are operating within it right now and what you need to know in that regard. So this is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show right here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. We'll be right back.
Hear the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show every Saturday morning at 9 and each Sunday morning at 10 on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. 1250 WTMA. Expert news and views on the Lowcountry real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, folks, as the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. I'm, of course, your host, Brian Beatty. If you ever want to reach out to me, if you ever want to talk about real estate for yourself, for your family, for anyone you know, anything we can do to help, whether it's in the form of representing you as your agent or just providing you with some guidance. My number is 843-400-8009. You're welcome to call that number. That's my private cell. Call or text 843-400-8009. Or you can always go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Communicate it with us through that website. Or you can send me an email, brian@brianbeattyteam.com. Or you can just do a Google search and kind of find us wherever we are. We're all over the place. But I want to continue our discussion and finalize this on what's happening in the market. It's really interesting to watch. You would think that with the inventory that suddenly drops at the beginning of the year, because it happens every year. And I know I've mentioned this on this program before, but for the people that are tuning in for the first time or maybe missed that show, when you get toward the end of the year, a lot of the listings that are on the market for sale obviously have an agreement between the seller and the listing agent. Most of those agreements are written to expire at the end of the year, which is why at 12:01 a.m. on January 1st, we see a bunch of properties disappear from the market. That's just because they've expired. Those contracts are now expired. And so usually what happens is those properties, a good portion of them go right back on the market. And then the rest of them kind of trickle in over the course of the next few months. And I would like to have seen, obviously, more inventory. I know any buyer in this market would have liked to have seen the same. It's really hard. If you're a buyer in this market right now, there's no sense in sugarcoating it. It's a tough market. But when we look at the properties that are on the market right now, this time last year, we had about 1,900 homes. We had 1,900 new listings hit the market January of last year. In January, last month, we had 1,700 hit the market. So we're a little down in terms of putting new inventory on the market. Of course, that means that the number of pending sales was down a little bit as well, but only by like 3%, so negligible. What's interesting to see is that the days on market has been cut basically in half. This time last year, it was taking about 6 weeks or so to sell a property. Now it's taking 3. And that's the average. Obviously, most properties that are priced well, that are in good condition, that are marketed well, they're selling in like hours or days. If they're smart, it's days so they can get multiple offers and so they can kind of pin buyers against one another. That's just what's happening. That's the reality of this market. That is the game that some agents play. And it's for the benefit of their client, the seller, right? They are tasked with getting that seller the most money possible. When we look at the median sales price, I mentioned this last segment. Last year in January, it was $315,000. Now it's $360,000. If we look at something like the number of homes that are available for sale, getting kind of granular there, last year in January, we had 2,500 homes for sale, and that was really low. We were not used to seeing properties that low. And I remember discussions with the other agents that sell real estate at a high level. They're like, it's going to be tough to see it go down much lower than that. Well, here we are over the past few weeks, and we're basically harboring around 1,000 to 1,200 homes available for sale. That's been cut in half from last year. Everything keeps getting cut in half. And so now how that relates to month's supply of inventory is that is now cut in half. We have basically half a month's supply worth of inventory on our market. If nothing else, so the way of thinking through that would be if nothing else hit the market, it'd take about 3 weeks and then we'd be sold out. Obviously, if we're looking at averages, right? But that's not really reality and that wouldn't happen. But the reality is the demand is so excessive and the supply is virtually non-existent. We're just in no way, shape, or form keeping up with demand. Now, if you look at Charleston County, let me just kind of compare Charleston County for a moment to this time last year. New listings are down 14%. Closed sales are down 13%. The median sales price is up 9%. The median sales price is about $500,000. This time last year, it was a little over, it was $457,000. Properties are selling in 23 days. And January of last year, there were 875 homes, single-family homes available for sale. Now there's 383. There were 396 condos and townhomes. Now there's only 112. So massive reductions in inventory. In Dorchester County, new listings are down 10%. Closings are down 3%. The median sales price is up 23% compared to January of last year. It's at $332 right now. This time last year, it was at $270. It's just amazing. We had, last year, 289 single-family homes for sale. Now we've got 116. We had 39 condos and townhomes for sale. Now we have 7. Just, again, very, very little inventory. Now, finally, with Berkeley County, new listings are down just a little bit, 2.5%. Closings are down 1%. The median sales price is up 17.5%. They're sitting at $355 right now. This time last year, it was just a tad over $300. There were 506 single-family homes for sale this time last year. Now there's 304. There were 70 condoms and townhomes, and now there's 36. So again, things are being cut in half. Something like the reduction in condos and townhomes in Dorchester County, 39-7. I mean, that's down 82%. So it begs the question, how in the world can we navigate this market? If I'm a seller and I would like to sell my house, but there's nothing pushing me out the door. There's no deadline that I have to achieve. It's just something that I'd like to do. That's, I think, the vast majority of sellers in this market right now, and they're essentially sidelined because they can't find anything to buy and move into. And they're scared that if they just go and approach the seller and say, hey, I want to buy your property, but I have to sell mine first, that seller's not going to give them the time of day. They're going to say, well, why would I wait for, why would I complicate this process when there are other buyers that would make me an offer that do not have a home sale contingency? And it's a good question. It's a fair point. And so what's happening is because of this gridlock of sorts, it sometimes brings out the worst in agent behavior. They get desperate. They start doing whatever they feel they need to do in order to convince that seller to sign with them. They're even going so, and I talked about this, a few shows ago where, we talked about ethics in real estate and how challenging it is to basically nail agents for unethical behavior. It's, they're pretty sly about what they do. But if you're a real estate agent and you're listening, look at the Facebook groups where we all kind of communicate and we talk about listings and best practices and so on and so forth. Sometimes these Facebook groups are nothing more than a venue for people to complain, right? People that are just naturally negative. They like to, post their opinion and they're pretty polarizing as a person. How many times have we seen lately of agents that are poaching clients from other agents? Agents are literally calling sellers that are actively listed for sale with another real estate agent. And they're saying, hey, does your contract have a cancellation agreement in it that says that you can cancel it at any time? And that's become fairly commonplace in this market as agents have become more competitive in an effort to earn your business. And so these sellers will say, well, yeah. And so now these agents are basically trying to convince the seller to fire their current agent so that they can be hired to help them sell the property. It is a massive, massive ethical violation. That's one of the worst that you can do in terms of agent-to-agent interaction. But it's happening. And I've had it happen to me. Gosh, I can't even count how many times over the course of a 16-year career. But even my most recent listing appointment, I got there a little early, about 5 minutes or so early. The seller was meeting with another group of agents, a husband and wife, and they ended up going like 20 minutes past, I guess, their allotted time, and that's fine, So I'm waiting patiently, and we don't normally get that stacked up one against another. But it's cool. I'm a competitive person. I played sports all my life. I thrive in competition. I'm the type of person that does better with it than without it. So we start talking, and two huge things stuck out to me that I think are applicable for this particular radio station and the show. And that is, number one, that the comps in the neighborhood were very limited. There really wasn't a lot of data to go off of. But there was a home that just went under contract like the day of the appointment. So that gives us a pretty good indication of what people are willing to pay for a similar property. Now, the one that I went to had some nicer features than the one that went under contract. And so, of course, we account for that. But the listing agents that were before me told the seller that they could basically sell their home for double what the other home was under contract for. I mean, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars off the mark. And so I had to first explain to the seller that, hey, I'm not here to make them look bad. I'm here to help you understand how pricing works, how the mind of an appraiser works, how we can apply that methodology to your property while also taking into consideration the fact that there's always three sides to pricing. There's what the seller wants to sell it for, what a buyer's willing to pay, and then what you can prove through data. And in a severe seller's market, things tend to slide more toward the what buyers are willing to pay category than what can be proven. And the reason you're not hearing so much about appraisal issues is because buyers are saying, look, I don't see the market slowing down anytime soon, so I'm just going to bridge the gap between the appraisal amount and the contract amount. If there's like a $10,000 difference, then that just means that you, the buyer, of course, can either negotiate that amount with the seller. You can choose not to buy the property if the seller won't negotiate, or you can just buy the property and that difference you make up for in the form of cash. So we're seeing a lot of, and this has been commonplace for years and years. It's not like this is something new, but agents are essentially buying listings is what we refer to it as in our industry. They're telling the seller whatever they want to hear so that those sellers get excited, wide-eyed, and say, wow, that sounds great. I can't believe it's worth that much money. I can't believe I could sell my home for that much money. And those agents likely know that there's no way someone's going to pay anywhere close to that price, but it's the price that I need to say in order to get this seller to agree to hire me, because that's one of the only tools in my tool belt as an agent, is just telling them that they can sell it for more. So that's what most inexperienced agents will do. They'll just get the seller excited, and then the rest of the relationship is basic misery because all they're asking you to do is reduce the price. But I had something else happen on this appointment. The agents had the audacity to tell the seller that, hey, I don't know if you follow Dave Ramsey or not, but, owning real estate is like the new Mercedes. And I couldn't help but notice that the other agent just pulled up in a Mercedes, saying that about me. These agents don't know me. They don't know anything about me or my financial situation. But they took it as an opportunity to try and throw me under the bus to make themselves look better. That is commonplace. The agent's going to throw another agent under the bus and step on their back to elevate themselves. It's the same type of person that will do what they need to do in order to get you to sign an agreement, regardless of whether it's in your best interest or not, and will also say and do what they need to do in order to get your home sold. Now, you might think, well, that last part doesn't sound that bad. Do whatever it takes to make the sale. Isn't that why I hired that person? Isn't that the point? Well, let me tell you something. And this is part of the reason why you want to listen to my show. No other show out there kind of reveals the dirty little secrets about our industry. So when we come back, I'm going to tell you what some of these agents are doing behind the scenes, and how that basically is in direct conflict with the confidentiality that they owe you and the fact that they have been tasked with selling your home for the most money possible. So this will be interesting. Stick around for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show right here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
More stimulating talk on real estate matters with Brian Beatty next on 1250 WTMA. 1250 WTMA. Now, here's more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, folks, as the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. If at any point in time you want to reach out to me and either ask me a question or you're thinking of buying, selling, or investing in real estate, you're looking for a quality real estate agent. I've been in the top 1% of agents here since 2009. In fact, top 1% of agents in America, and would love the opportunity to just talk with you, earn your business. My number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or you can email me, Brian at brianbeattyteam.com. Or you can check out our website, listingsincharleston.com. So let me finish this discussion on, I think, how you need to approach working with agents right now. Because they're a dime a dozen. Almost literally a dime a dozen. Because, we've got, almost 8,000 agents in our market. We've got a little over 1,000 homes for sale. And in that type of environment where market share is very challenging to come by, listings we're referring to, then it at times brings out the worst in real estate agents. Desperation is a very stinky cologne. And so, we were talking about how some of these agents will purposefully overprice your listing as a buffer to any other agent that you might talk to that might do the same. So usually what happens in these type of situations where a listing agent knows that there are going to be multiple agents interviewing for a house, it's very commonplace for them to just basically play leapfrog on the suggested listing price. And so they're going to ask you things like, it sounds like you've already interviewed an agent or two. I'm just curious, what do they think the market believes your home is worth? And so they'll say, let's just pick up a number, $750. Oh, really? That's interesting. I was actually thinking more like $799. And then the next, I think $825 is probably what I would start. And then it's just, it gets so far off the mark. And you guys don't necessarily see this. I suppose you can if you went to Zillow. But when I'm looking at properties and when I'm looking at comps and I'm looking at the history of the property, you're looking at homes that are basically listing for 10, 15, 20% above what it's actually going to sell for. And then the agent brags about, selling it for 100% of the asking price. Well, that's all well and good, but let's not forget that you started 20% above that number, which is why some of these stats are skewed and you've got to really take them with a grain of salt, in all honesty. But here's some of the things that agents do that I think you need to be aware of, because there are agents out there that are not behaving ethically, and they might not even realize it. But I'll get questions, all the time from agents, and I'm sure that our agents ask the same questions to other listing agents. Things like, hey, how many offers have you had? So let's say that let's just kind of play this out. Let's say the listing agent says, yeah, well, we've had 2 offers, we've gotten kind of close, but nothing ever worked out. So then I might say something like, okay, so you guys were kind of negotiating back and forth, but just couldn't come to a price. Do you mind if I ask how much that was for, just so I know what number I need to be above? Now that sounds like a fairly honest question, but in reality, what I'm trying to gauge in that conversation is, well, how far down did the seller go in their counteroffer? I mean, you've already told me that the seller's negotiable. Now I'm just trying to figure out how much. And you'll be surprised at how much these agents will reveal. My client's interested in making an offer of, $300,000. Let's say it's listed for $320,000. Is that something that your seller would consider? Yeah, I think they'd consider it. And we say, look, the reality is they're not approved for much more than that. So you think that there's the opportunity for us to at least meet somewhere in the middle, maybe even a little closer to our number? And then the listing agent says, yeah, I think we could get pretty close. Well, why in the world would the listing agent answer that question? But they do, and they do it all the time. If we're in a multiple offer situation, we're representing a buyer, we'll call the listing agent, we'll say, hey, I know that there are multiple offers. My buyers want the property. How much is your highest offer? We want to be the ones that win. So if you're already happy with the offers that you have, tell us what we need to do to be in pole position, and I'll see if my client can make that happen. So if they're saying, well, yeah, it's listed for $300,000 and our top offer is $303,000, the problem is, what if my buyer was willing to pay $310,000 or $315,000? Well, they're certainly not going to now. If I know that your highest offer is $303,000, we're probably more like $305,000 now. I could have just saved my client $10,000 by asking that question. Or conversely, that listing agent could have made their seller more money by just shutting up and not answering the question. Another thing, we get these homes that are under contract, and everything is going under contract so quickly that, I'll get calls from agents, and they'll say, hey, I'm using your home as a comp. I know it hasn't closed yet, but, how much are you guys under contract for? So let's say it's a $500,000 house, and we're under contract. I could say, well, we're under contract at full price, $500,000. Well, what if that property goes back on the market, it falls through? Now they know that, hey, somebody else was willing to pay $500,000 for it, but what if that contract amount was $490,000? Maybe that buyer would have been willing to pay above $500,000. I have just lost my client money. So that's why some of this is so important. I'll hear things like, hey, you've been on the market for about 6 weeks, which is kind of high in that area. Where do you realistically think the seller wants to be in order to get the property sold? Are you guys due for a price reduction? What's going on there? And you'll get these agents that just open up. And why am I telling you this? Because it's important for you to understand how the game is played. If I can give you some cheat codes, it's going to help you win. Because at the end of the day, that's the purpose of this show, to broaden your understanding of the real estate market locally, regionally, nationally, the trends within it, how the process works based on those trends, and to ultimately prepare you for success in your next real estate transaction. So if I'm interviewing an agent in this kind of market, then I'm certainly looking for things like experience, a record of sales, recent sales. Not, I've sold 100 homes over my career. Well, that career could be 35 years long. That's not all that impressive. Marketing, how are you actually going to find me buyers? The reality is there is some, well, I can't obviously get into it because other agents listen to this program, but we have figured out a way to take full advantage of things like coming soon marketing and our ability to market your property to our database of buyers currently looking for homes, we've got a database literally of 20,000 people that have registered on our website that are actively looking at properties. So when I go on a listing appointment and I say, here's how much I think your home is worth, and based on the location, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, and price range, here's how many people I have in my database right now that would be interested in at least having a conversation about your house. Now, I can't guarantee that all 800 people on this list want to buy your house, but surely there's somebody in there that would like to. And that's why when you hire an agent, their process for bringing you a buyer, for creating urgency, and ultimately getting you the most money possible is incredibly important. So you have to have them describe their strategy. Hey, are we listing low and bidding up and getting multiple offers so that we sell high? Or are we listing high to try and push the envelope because there's nothing else on the market, with the idea of selling high and kind of setting that new price per square foot or new kind of like benchmark for homes like that in your neighborhood? There are different strategies we can employ here to help you sell your home for the most money. I think you also need to be asking for references. Just because they're selling real estate doesn't mean that they're doing a good job. Let's be honest. Customer service, and I'm going to try not to get on this soapbox for too long because there is other stuff I want to cover, but I feel like customer service in this country has gone to where. I get it. I mean, people are short-staffed or whatever, but the lack of customer service in this area, in this country, is going downhill and fast. So I'm frankly, I shouldn't have to feel impressed when somebody treats me with respect if I'm a client of theirs. That should be commonplace, but apparently it's no longer commonplace. So customer service is incredibly important. So is accountability. Are there mechanisms in the agreement between you and your agent that allow that agent to be punished if they don't do what they're supposed to be doing? They might come to your house and give you a really nice talk, and then you sign on the dotted line, and then what happens from there? If they don't hold true to their end of the deal, then how can you get out of that agreement? Because some agents don't have that cancellation policy, and then you're stuck, or you got to pay to get out, and that's not fun. But I think the last thing that I'd really focus on in hiring an agent right now, other than like the commissions and the incentives and the actual cost, is the creativity and the problem solving. That really only comes with experience and time. But in this market, you have to be creative. So I want to talk about that for the last few minutes of the show. So stick around for the last few minutes of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. And if you want to reach out to me and talk with me about helping you buy, sell, or invest in real estate in the Charleston area, then my number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or go to listingsincharleston.com. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Have a real estate question? Ask Brian Beatty. Send him an email, lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show is on 1250 WTMA. 1250 WTMA. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Welcome back, folks, to the last few minutes of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. And I want to take a quick moment and just say thank you to everybody that listens to this program, relies on the information within it, hires us to help them buy, sell, or invest in real estate. It's our absolute pleasure to be on this program. And it's very therapeutic for me as well, because I really just kind of get to tell you like it is, which is how I operate my business. I'm straightforward. I'm to the point. I treat people respectfully. I am not a beat around the bush, smoke and mirrors type of agent. People hire me when they want to get the job done and they want to have a good experience. Let's just put it that way. So if at any point in time you want to call me, you have got questions, you need a good referral for a contractor, of course, you want to hire me as your agent, then just give me a call, 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or go to our website, listingsincharleston.com, or email me, brian@brianbeattyteam.com. So let me finish this conversation about why it's so important to be creative in this type of market. Obviously, if you're a buyer, like I'd mentioned earlier, there's no sense in sugarcoating it. It's really tough for you right now. If you're a seller and you want to sell your home, but you can't find anywhere to go, at some point in time, you're just going to say, you know what? We don't have to move. Let's just do some work to our house and let's just stay here. Obviously, some people don't have that luxury and some people absolutely want to move. They're just bottlenecked by the fact that there's hardly anything for sale. So we have to be creative. We have to do more as real estate agents to provide value. The reality is, though, most agents don't have the bandwidth. They really don't. They're busy. They're out showing property. They're solo agents. Maybe their team is not run very well efficiently like a business. It's just a bunch of agents that want to try and sell a bunch of real estate together, which is how most teams, frankly, operate. In addition to doing this show and to running my real estate team, I'm also an international real estate coach. So believe me, I know. I've seen behind the curtain from teams. It doesn't matter where they are, New York, California, Canada. I've seen how everything is set up. So the reality is there are some creative solutions that we can employ in a market like this that really help. One of them is a home purchase contingency. And I've talked about this in the past, but let's say that you want to buy a home, but you need to sell your home first. Well, typically what people will do is they will go and identify the home they want to buy, and then they'll create a contingency that says, hey, I got to get my home on the market and get that sold before I can afford to buy yours. Well, the inverse of that would be I'm going to put my property on the market, create some inventory here, get a backlog of buyers that are interested, and maybe even accept an offer on my home without finding something else to purchase. But obviously we have to protect you from selling your home and not having anywhere to go. So we put a home purchase contingency in that contract that says, hey, I'll take your offer, but I have to have a certain amount of time to identify another property and put that under contract before I can sell to you. So if the seller is always kind of in this position of, hey, if I can't sell my house, then I can't sell my house. I get my earnest money back. Well, I think the same should be true in a seller market if they can't find something that they want to buy in time. They refund the buyer's earnest money and they say, hey, we can either extend it or, whatever, but I can't just sell my home and not be in a new one. So there's a home purchase contingency. I wish I'd see more of it, but no one does it. It's absolutely viable. And if that's something you want more information on, then again, give me a buzz, 843-400-8009, 400-8009, or go to listingsincharleston.com. When we've got a multiple offer situation, there are things like an escalation clause that says, hey, whatever the highest amount is, I want to be $1,000 over that amount, so long as we don't exceed this maximum purchase price for the property. But you got to share with me the other offer amount so that I know that what I'm actually paying is consistent with what that other second best offer was. Or you can do something like an appraisal gap contingency that says, hey, I know that I'm paying top dollar for this property, and I know that because homes that are selling within the past 6 months are basically behind the curve now, they're worth more because prices are appreciating. So if I buy your house and it's, $300,000 and the appraisal comes in at $290,000, well, I'm going to agree up front when I make the offer that $5,000 of that difference I will absorb. But anything past that, we have to negotiate. That's a big win for the seller, and it's frankly a big win for the buyer. If we know that prices are moving quickly, and they are, now will they slow down at some point? Yes, of course they will at some point. Don't know when. I don't know if many of us do. But that's just another opportunity. And then, of course, we talk about this on this show, and it's so important. Shadow inventory. Shadow inventory is very simply this. It is all the people that are on the sideline. They're not in the game right now. They're not on the market. They're on the sideline. They're waiting to go in. They're just waiting for their opportunity, mostly in the form of a house that they want to purchase. Well, real estate agents that do a really good job have big databases of people that they communicate with on a daily basis. And so if you're a buyer, maybe we're talking to a seller that wants to sell a home that you would be interested in buying, and vice versa. So all you need to do is call us and we'll tell you if we have any homes that fit your needs or any buyers for your home. All you have to do is call 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or go to our website, listingsincharleston.com. listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Thanks so much. Enjoy your weekend, and appreciate you listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 10. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009.